I'm Fernanda Vela, and I'm co-presenting with Stanislav Belov. So we're both program managers in the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Customer Experience Engineering team. And so with this, what is the thing that we actually release in Ignite, right? What's new in CSPM, what's new in CWPP. We're going to talk about those, and we're going to do some demos, and we're going to have a Q&A section here. So let's get into it. So as far as we know, Microsoft Defender for Cloud is a cloud security posture management tool, but also a cloud workload protection platform. And so it is going to continuously assess your resources that are in Azure, in AWS, in GCP, on premises. So it's a multi-cloud tool that you can actually use in all of your hybrid environments. We're going to harden your resources and help you strengthen your security posture. As you are all aware, we have Secure Score that actually helps you have these KPI so that you can kind of like know where you're sitting in your security posture. We're also going to help you detect and resolve threats to resources that are identified in these hybrid environments. We enabled you to use workflow automation so that you can quarantine servers, send messages to your security team, and notify everyone. Like you can kind of like do whatever you want as far as reacting in your detection here. So that is in general what Defender for Cloud is and does. We protect, as I said, we protect resources that are in Azure, in Google Cloud, in AWS, and on premises. And so with that, we're gonna say here what's new in CSPM. So we have all of these announcements that you can actually find in a section when you go into our documentation called What's New. So there's in that section, you're gonna see all of our announcements and also upcoming announcements that we have. So as far as here, we have the Defender Cloud Security Posture Management, the preview one that we just launched. The contextual security capabilities in Defender for Cloud, that actually involves Cloud Security Graph, Attack Path Analysis, Cloud Security Explorer. We're also going to touch a little bit on the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, which also just recently was launched. The new identity recommendations in Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and how the MITRE ATT&CK framework mapping is now available for AWS and GCP security recommendations. So with that, let me go and show you what the Defender Cloud Security Posture Management looks like, and also how the contextual security capabilities in Defender for Cloud is. So when I go here into the Azure security, into the Microsoft Defender for Cloud dashboard, we're going to see that if I go into the environment settings, and if I go into any of my subscriptions, let me just drill into one of those. If I click there and then go into the Defender plans, I'm going to see here that the Defender Cloud Security Posture Management, the CSPM free, is going to have like a banner here that says all of the capabilities, right, that we have seen so far, which is the continuous assessments, security recommendations, and also the use of Secure Score. This is going to continue here in the CSPM free version. But we launched this Defender CSPM capability. And so with that, what we're bringing, and we actually have it in our documentation, is this contextual CSPM part that we're going to present, that it's mainly mapping and interconnecting your resources that you have in your environment. This can be Azure, this can be AWS, this can be any of those. And we're going to map them, and we're going to identify security risks that are there, what is like a priority, and all of that. So let me just.
It stops at 10 cost.
Oh, okay. Thank you. See you there.
So here, when I go into the Defender CSPM part and I click on the details in the pricing, I'm going to see like what is included, right? So I'm going to see the identity and network exposure detection is going to be here, the attack path analysis that we're going to look in just like a minute, the cloud security explorer for risk hunting, the agentless vulnerability scanning, which is an amazing feature that we just released, governance rules, and also regulatory compliance. We're going to have all of this within the Defender CSPM plan. So all of this is in preview. So it is going to be free as long as it's in public preview. And so now I'm going to show you what the contextual CSPM and all of that is about. So when I go into the recommendations, I'm going to see that I'm going to have a banner that says attack path. So in this environment where I have 87 subscriptions, I have 102 attack paths. And so I don't know if you have felt this way, because like a lot of the users that we tend to communicate with, usually tells us that they feel overwhelmed when they see like all of the secure score recommendations, and then when they go to the all recommendations section, it's just like a ton of information, and they don't know like how to start remediating, how to start really taking control, taking ownership over the security posture. So when you go into the attack paths, you're gonna see like a bunch of risk-based scenarios. So this is like an easier way to kind of like identify where you can start putting some efforts into improving your security posture. So in this example, I have several attack paths here, like VM has high severity vulnerabilities and read permission to a key vault. This is in the Azure environment, but I have also risk-based scenarios for AWS, which is pretty amazing whenever you use the connector that we have here. So I'm gonna go and click on the first one that I already have here loaded. So it's VM has high severity vulnerabilities and read permissions to a key vault. So I can see here what is the potential impact, right? So it's an attacker can actually exploit these vulnerabilities, gain remote code execution, and use the permission of the identity to steal credentials from the key vault. So this is kind of like a lot of maybe recommendations that kind of like join together here. I can see here resource types that are involved in this attack path. I can see the category here, so it's like credentials exposure and also compute abuse. I can see here remediation steps that mainly tells me to go into the recommendations and actually take action there. So what we have here is something that our engine that is called the cloud graph, the cloud security graph is doing. So it's mainly what it's doing in the background is that it's mainly looking and assessing at all of the resources that we have in the environment, and it's going to like interconnect them, right? And it's going to identify security risks and all of that. And so it's going to see how everything is related. So we're putting this in a very friendly way to the user so that they can actually see how their virtual machine is connected to this identity and to the key vault, right? So it's kind of like very straightforward. What are the resources that are involved here? So if I go into the recommendation section, I can see that if I remediate the machine should have vulnerability findings resolves, then I'm actually mitigating the risk of an attacker exploiting these vulnerabilities. So it is kind of like this amazing scenario where I can just like put emphasis in these risk-based assessments and just like start improving my security posture. So also here, I'm going to click on the one that says for AWS environment. So if I go here, I can see I have the risk-based scenario for internet exposed EC2 instances, has high severity vulnerabilities and high permission to an account. So it's just the same thing here. I have in my environment some AWS accounts. So that's how it's reading all of this information. I also have this Defender CSPM plan enabled. So that's also how we're receiving all of this data. So it's just going to be the same look and feel for Azure resources. It's going to have the potential impact. So I'm going to see attacker with network access to EC2 instance can exploit the vulnerabilities, gain remote code execution, and use its permissions to manage an account, create resources, delete resources, and all of that. I'm also going to see here the category, resource types that are involved, and also like the mapping of all of this. So because this risk-based scenario actually applies to many resources in my environment, I'm going to see that I'm going to have these look and feel. So if I click in the first one, I'm going to see the IP address, the EC2 instance, and also the account. So I can see how everything, again, is interconnected, how is the risk, and I can go here into the recommendations and actually do something about it, right? Actually mitigate this risk from happening. So that is mainly how the contextual CSPM portion is going to be made of. So it's mainly like this, what I said, right? It's this engine that we have in the backend that is going to map all of our resources. It's also going to identify and assess all of these recommendations and security risks. And it's going to put it in a nice way here that we can kind of like quickly identify what's wrong. So that's mainly the scenario. So the other thing that we also release is the Cloud Security Explorer. And this is like an easy way to start building queries. We know that a lot of our customers are very involved in KQL. So they usually go a lot into the Azure resource graph and they start like querying from our tables and start creating workbooks and creating other type of dashboards, communicating these interfaces into other products and all of that. So we heard that and we created this that is super simple for people that is just starting to create queries and all of that. You can actually just come here into the Cloud Security Explorer and you can start creating queries in a very easy way. It's just mainly of drop downs that you're going to have here. So for example, I can put that, or I can use some templates that I have already as default. So for example, if I go and click in one of those templates, I can see the user account has connection, the connection name has permissions to virtual machine that has vulnerabilities. So I can read like all of that. In that scenario, I can see here all of the resources that comply with that query, right? So it's just like very easy to use. I can just like come here and just creating here all of the queries and finding like results here. So all of this information is available for all of the users that use our contextual CSPM portion, our Defender CSPM capability. And so you're gonna, like I said, you can use these drop downs and just start querying whatever you are trying to find, or you can start using the templates as a starting point, and then from there continue like building like this type of queries. A second thing that we have is the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark. And so let me just share very quickly here. So before we had the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, we used to have the Azure Security Benchmark, right? And it was mainly focused on Azure resources. As far as we know, like the market is not only like Azure, right? We have many other clouds that are everyone is trying to really just have like a single page where you can actually assess all of your clouds and then just know where to start, what is going on, and all of that. So we created the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark that now is going to says, besides Azure resources, is going to says Google Cloud resources and also AWS resources. And these benchmarks, because I'm also showing here the Azure Security Benchmark, these benchmarks actually use PCI controls, CIS controls, and NIST controls, because we know that those are kind of like the ones that we see most of our users are exposed to. And we wanted like to map it in a way that you can have all of your clouds in a single dashboard. So if I go here into the regulatory compliance and I click into the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, I'm going to see here all of the controls. So it's the same experience, the same look and feel as we had before. But now if I click into one of my controls, I'm going to see here all of the automated assessments for Azure, but I can also identify the ones that are for AWS. So it's a very simple way to identify where my cloud is and what are the recommendations, what are these controls that I need to tackle in order to improve my security posture and also be compliant with other standards. So from here, you're going to see it's just exactly the same look and feel. You're going to see all of the recommendations. You're going to have the description, remediation steps, but also all of the affected resources. So that is going to be for GCP, Azure, AWS. So that is something that we just released. So you can easily have everything in a single screen, and you can actually just like download this report. And as soon as you download it, you're gonna have like, again, like this mapping of across your clouds. So that is a very nice experience to have here. And then the other thing that we just released is the extra recommendations that were added to the identity section. So as you are all aware, in the multi-factor authentication recommendations about like your users that have write access should have MFA enabled and all of that, all of those were subscription based. And so anytime that you would want to go and exempt a single account, right? Like maybe this break glass account or something like that, you would have to exempt everything in a subscription, right? Which is not the ideal case. So we heard like also the feedback from many of our customers, many of our users talking about this. And so we launched these extra recommendations. So now they're not only subscription based, but they're account based. So you can actually go and exempt a single account. So for example, in this screenshot, I have here the recommendation accounts with owner permissions on Azure resources should have MFA enabled, right? So it's the same look and feel. You have the description, affected resources, and also the accounts there. So if I wanted just to exempt a single resource within my subscription that is being notified with this recommendation, I would just go ahead here and select the account that I want to exempt, and then I was just exempted, right? And so it won't impact my secure score in that way. So it's mainly now you can exempt accounts instead of just exempting subscriptions. So if I show you how it was done before, you used to have these recommendations, right? MFA should be enabled on accounts with owner permissions on subscription. So you would go ahead here, you would see remediation steps, but there was like only one way to exempt things, right? And it was just like going into the subscription level and implementing the exemption. Now with this, it's you just go into this recommendation, you're gonna have your accounts that are being assessed, and you're gonna be able to exempt and mitigate also this so that it doesn't impact your secure score. Something to really pay attention is that these are preview recommendations, so they're actually not going to affect your secure score until they go in GA. So so just be aware of that. If you want to start kind of like tackling them so that as soon as they go GA, you have your secure score going up, you can start doing that. That is what we have been also doing within our teams. So this is kind of like the new thing that we have going on. And last but not least about the CSPM part is that now we have the MITRE ATT&CK mapping to AWS and GCP resources. So for example, if I go again here into my secure score recommendations, and I filter by tactics so that I can just like pull like everything that is mapped, I can see here all of my Azure recommendations, but also my AWS and GCP recommendation, which is interesting because we didn't have that before, right? And so right now I can just go into any of these recommendations and I can see from here, I had it right here. It was this one. So I can see from here all of the tactics and techniques that are mapped, right? So I can see here from the management port of EC2 instances should be protected with just-in-time network access. I can see here the MITRE ATT&CK framework taking place. So when I go into the tactics and techniques, I can see that it's a lateral movement. So I can dig a little bit more and kind of like open this in a new tab and kind of like know about where this stands. But it's kind of like an easier way, right, to filter your recommendations to kind of like know where you're standing, right, where your resources are standing and what's the security posture around that. So that is all that we have within the CSPM part. So now I'm handing it over to Stan, who is going to talk about the CWPP, what's new.
All right, thank you, Fernanda. It's been great. So yeah, hello everybody. As you've seen, we've had quite a few interesting additions to our CSPM capabilities. Now I'm going to talk about the cloud workload protection updates, and let me share my screen. Hopefully everybody's able to see it. So as you can see here, we have quite a few awesome news to share with you. So first one is the agentless scanning for Azure and AWS machines. That I'm going to spend some time on, explaining how this works, and I'm going to show you the results of this. We also have several new workbooks that we've published to our built-in library and also to our GitHub repository. So we're going to take a look at those. Defender for Containers now support vulnerability assessment for AWS ECR registries. And finally, we have the preview integration between Defender for Cloud and Azure Monitoring Agent. And also, we recently released a completely new Defender plan, which is Defender for DevOps. We are planning to have a dedicated webinar just on that topic. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I'll just, explain what it is all about, and I'm going to show you the what it looks like in the portal. And with that, let's go to this agentless scanning. So as you probably know, that the Defender for Cloud currently supports several agent-based vulnerability assessment solutions, including Defender for Endpoint, integrated Qualys VA solution, and also several bring your own license vulnerability assessment solutions, like standalone Qualys and some others. But agentless scanning actually extends this visibility, and so that we can reach more devices. And it provides the visibility into installed software and any vulnerabilities that you might have in that software. And without even deploying any agent. The way it works is, and like I said, so that's currently available for Azure VMs and AWS EC2 instances. And the way we do this scanning is by taking disk snapshots and creating like a temporary isolated environment where we mount this snapshot, do the disk scan, to look for software installed, like getting the software file versions and all that, and they send this information to the Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management backend for analysis, for assessment. And then you get the assessment result back, and you can see them in Defender for Cloud. Again, without touching the running VM at all. So I mean, at the zero effect on the machine, zero effect on the performance, because no agent is required. So and I just want to show you what it's going to look like. So first of all, agentless scanning is part of the 2 Defender plans. So we include this capability to Defender for Server bundle, P2. And also this new Defender CSPM plan. So meaning that you can, if you want to use the agentless scanning capability, you need to have either of those or both, whatever. Meaning that to start using agentless scanning, so you just need to either enable Defender CSPM plan or Defender for Server. And also then after you've done that, you need to actually enable this feature. So, and you can do that by going to the environment settings. We actually, as one of another part of the Ignite announcement, we changed a little bit the user experience. So now all these agents configurations and some additional features like this agentless scanning now available by going to the settings and monitoring. So we kind of aggregated these relevant configuration options into this single view now. So you need to kind of explicitly enable this agentless scanning if you want to use it. Another interesting thing that is not available for other vulnerability assessment solutions, but available for agentless scanning, is that you can actually exclude machines you don't want us to touch. For instance, you have any concerns about any of those your highly valuable production servers, you can just easily exclude that by using those tags. So, and when you've configured all these things, that's all you need to do. So then Defender for Cloud will start scanning your virtual machines every 24 hours. We do this scan as part of this public preview. So if you think that that's probably you want to do those scans, you're going to get those results more often, please share your thoughts. You can just now in the chat or whatever, you can reach out to us later on. So if you think that 24 hours is too much. So I just want to show you the difference in the technically that there is no difference as far as the vulnerability assessment results between agent-based, MD-based vulnerability assessment and this agentless vulnerability assessment. So if we go to the, I have two virtual machines here, right? 2019 boxes, the 1 and 2. So one of those, 01, has been onboarded to MD. As you can see here, I have this MD.Windows extension deployed, meaning that this machine is actually onboarded to MD, and it's getting this vulnerability assessment results from the agent-based vulnerability assessment. So my other machine, which is 02, actually, as you can see here, doesn't have any extension at all. So, meaning that I don't have any vulnerability assessment, agent-based vulnerability assessment deployed to this machine. But if I go to vulnerability assessment results, I can see that both machines have exactly the same set of vulnerabilities detected and reported by Defender for Cloud. As you can see here, I have some old Adobe Reader installed on both machines, and there is no difference between agent-based and agentless vulnerability assessment. So both machines are reported having the same vulnerabilities. So meaning that the experience and the results of both assessments are the same. All right, that's the and actually we are currently thinking about expanding this agentless scanning of the machines to and add some additional scanning results. So for example, we might for instance assess the file system on that machine and look for some secrets. So if you have any ideas and what you would like to see as part of this agentless scanning, please share your ideas in the chat. So we have like a representative from the engineering team, so they would love to hear your feedback. All right, so next thing I wanted to share is the new workbooks that we recently added to the Defender for Cloud. So as you probably know, the Azure Workbooks is a service, just another Azure service that we use in Defender for Cloud for different reporting and data visualization purposes. So you can access those workbooks by go into Defender for Cloud and go into the workbooks blade. So you'll be able to see multiple built-in workbooks. And also we have our GitHub repository where we also publish some custom workbooks that we create based on customer feedbacks. Sometimes they end up being added to this built-in the gallery. So, but sometimes they're more like open source, or sometimes the customers actually create and share their workbooks with the broader community. So then we really encourage you to do the same. So recently we've added actually one workbook to the built-in gallery, which is container security, which I personally think it's a great workbook, especially if you have a large containerized environment, especially if it's multi-cloud, because we support Defender for Containers support multi-cloud, so we can assess Kubernetes and container registries, not just in Azure, but in other clouds. So, and these workbooks actually provide you consolidated kind of comprehensive view of your container security state. So you can see if they have any alerts, their severity. So if there are any vulnerabilities discovered in your container registries, container images. So you can see these the Kubernetes security state and so on and so forth. So it's a nice kind of aggregated, ready to share with the management view. But also if you wanted to drill down and actually find and see the actual issues, so you can use these tabs here. So you can see if all the alerts associated with your container resources, and so you can see what the subscription and what cluster is affected. And also you can find all those vulnerability assessment findings. You can drill down and see this information for every registry and for every image, and you can just drill down even more and actually see the actual vulnerabilities and take some actions. So to kind of improve your container environment security. So this workbook is built in, meaning that it's available for all Defender for Cloud users for free, actually, because workbooks are available for free. Another workbook that our team created based on your feedback, so our customers' feedback. And the scenario was, so look, we want to enable Defender for servers for multiple subscriptions, or for subscriptions with a lot of machines in it. Or let's say we want to onboard, 100 on-premise servers via Arc to Defender for Cloud, and also use the integration benefit of Defender for Cloud with Defender for Endpoint, and onboard and protect the machine, onboard the machines to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and get these anti-malware and EDR capabilities. But the way it works these days, that this onboarding process happens by Defender for Cloud deploying the extension, md.linux extension or md.windows extension, and there is no aggregated view. There's no like a single dashboard where you can see the result of this deployment, and that's been a kind of a blind spot for our customers. And this is in response to this request. So our team created this custom workbook that you can actually go ahead and deploy to your environment from our GitHub repository. So I want to ask my teammates to kind of drop the link to this repository, but it's also going to be part of this, the reference slide, and we'll be able to find this link later on. So for your convenience. So this is just in a one-click deployment. Just click deploy, fill out a couple of parameters, and you will see this simple but pretty helpful, I would say, workbook in your environment. And you'll be able to see how many machines have been successfully onboarded to MD and how many failed. And by clicking this, failed, for example, bar here, you will see all those machines where for some reason this MD extension failed. And you can take some action, understand why they failed, but at least now you know that you have some issues going on. And we have the report for both Azure VMs as well as Azure Arc machines. And again, by click and fail, you can see machines that failed and actually why they failed. So you can actually see what happened. So what prevented this machine from being onboarded to Defender for Endpoint. So I find this pretty cool. So another thing that we actually recently added is the now Defender for Containers allows you to scan your container images stored in AWS Elastic Container Registry service. But to be able to take advantage of this, obviously, functionality, you need to connect your AWS account to Defender for Cloud and also enable Defender for Container plan. So this this assessment is done by Agentless scanner, which is powered by open source trivia scanner. So basically, we don't touch anything. So we just, as part of this onboarding process, Defender for Container creates some temporary resources in your AWS account, and to be able to do this scanning. And as a result, you will be able to see a recommendation if of course you have any registries with vulnerable images. Unfortunately, we don't have any in our environment, so we have only one AWS account connected but so we have one registry, but it's not it doesn't have any vulnerabilities. But so if you do have anything, so you'll be able to see this recommendation, and we will show you so what image and what vulnerabilities this scanner has detected. So that's the as far as this new support. So another thing that I really wanted to kind of highlight that now Defender for Cloud supports Azure Monitoring Agent. And Azure Monitoring Agent is intended to replace the current localytic agent eventually. So, and I believe we already announced the deprecation date. I believe it's going to happen in 2 years from now, meaning that you have 2 years to migrate from localytic based monitoring to Azure Monitoring Agent based monitoring. But AMA has multiple benefits over localytic agent. First of all, it allows you more granular control, which security events you want to collect from your from monitored machines and store in localytic workspace, which means that obviously it's going to save you money because less information you collect, obviously less data storage you're going to use. So basically, cost-saving benefits here. So and you can obviously do that by creating data collection rules. And actually, another benefit of Azure Monitoring Agent is the centralized kind of the configuration management. So basically, you can create multiple data connection rules for different machine sets and for different workspaces. And then you just attach those the connection rules to different machine groups. It's kind of simplifies the overall kind of configuration and management of the monitoring of your environment. So and so now you have an option basically, especially for the new deployments. So you can decide which agent you want to deploy to your machines. And this is part of the configuration. So when you go to environment settings, when it opens up, let me use my other environment where it's gonna open probably quicker. All right. So as you can see here now, this the under settings and monitoring. So we have this agent configuration, and so basically you can decide which agent you want Defender for Cloud to automatically deploy to your servers. So whether it's going to be the old local auditing agent, we still support the old one. So we're not replacing it right away, but just be aware so that eventually this agent will be deprecated in a couple of years. But you still have a choice of deciding which agent you want to deploy. Keep in mind so that the support of Azure Monitor agents is still in public preview. So just be aware of that. So maybe be cautious, before you deploy this to your, critical production environment. So maybe it's worth testing that in pre-prod or, dev environment first and see if there are any issues. And don't forget to share your feedback with us. So that's as far as the Azure Monitoring Agent. And the last thing I wanted to kind of share today is the new Defender plan that we released 2 weeks ago with Ignite, which is Defender for DevOps. So Defender for DevOps allows you to get visibility to your connected developer environment and code repositories. Currently, we support 2 environments, one being Azure DevOps, and the other one is GitHub. And you can onboard this by clicking this, add environment. So there are some configuration steps you will need to take, get some permission configuration and so on and so forth. So, but after that, you will be able to see this kind of inventory view of your repositories on your environments, as well as some security findings or security recommendations that will, help your team to improve, overall security of those environments. So, we'll be able to discover some misconfigurations, provide some recommendations how to improve that. But also, it was just interesting. We also do, as part of this Defender for DevOps, we also do secret scanning, meaning that when you enable this plan, you'll be able to find if you have any secrets, like passwords or let's say access keys to some connection strings and so on and so forth in the code, which could be a security risk, right? Like, for example, we do have something discovered in our test environment. As you can see here, we have like some secrets keys stored in one of those repositories. So that's kind of information Defender for DevOps provides. But like I mentioned, so we are planning to host a very deep dive webinar on this topic. So if you're interested in having this, please also share your thoughts in the chat. So, and that's all I had for today as far as the new things in cloud workload protection. So a couple of closing thoughts. So first of all, please join our public community. So where you can share your thoughts, your feedback, just get access to all these publicly accessible forums, information, and blogs, and all that. Like I said, so we have a pretty actively used the blog series, so where you can find more information actually on this Defender for DevOps. So we recently published several articles on this new offering. So if you want to stay current on what's going on in Defender for Cloud world, consider subscribing to our monthly newsletter if you haven't done yet. So there are a lot of helpful artifacts you can find in our GitHub repository, so please check this out. And if you want to get access to and be part of our engineering life cycles, please consider also joining our private community, where you will get access to some early preview features, being able to talk to our engineers, developers, and so on and so forth. And with that, Ashley, I'm handing over back to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the great presentation. Let's see if we have any questions that we can go over here. So the first one we have is, what's the benefit of using an agent at this point versus agentless?
So first of all, if your server is already onboarded to, let's say, Defender for Endpoint, right? So you're already taking advantage of Defender for Endpoint for anti-malware in EDR. So you already have vulnerability assessment because MDE has already built in a TVM part, all right? So meaning that you're already getting the vulnerability assessment, meaning that, so in this case, in this scenario, there is no value currently. But like I mentioned, we're considering adding some additional capability to this agentless scanning, meaning that down the road, you might consider also using the agentless scanning to get some additional benefits of that. So another things that you might consider that, so it depends on your environment. So for instance, if you have, let's say, third-party EDR and anti-malware solution, CrowdStrike, whatever, so you name it. So, but you also want to use some vulnerability assessment solution, right? But we all know that deploying additional agent to the machine brings some performance implication, another piece of software that needs to be deployed, managed, and so on and so forth. I mean that the agentless vulnerability now is a good solution for these types of scenario, because you can get the visibility into what software you get installed, what kind of vulnerabilities it has, without deploying additional agent and without touching this machine. So it's case by case scenario. Actually, do we have anything else?
Oh, yeah, sorry out there, I was on mute. So the next question is, if a machine already has MDE, which contains TVM, why would we even look into agentless scanning? Or is agentless thought only for machines not covered by MDE or Qualys?
I believe I've just answered this question already.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay, does Defender for DevOps eliminate the need to use tools that inspect code?
So that's a topic for a totally separate conversation, but really quickly, so that the currently Defender for DevOps take advantage of the security capabilities provided for GitHub, for example, provided by advanced security feature of DevOps, but that already has its own code scanning, secret scanning capabilities. We just plug in, we get this information and present this information in Defender for Cloud. For Azure DevOps, for example, environment, we've created a separate scanner that actually scans the environment. If you're asking about the more like in-depth code scanning, like static code analysis, maybe even dynamic code analysis, this is something that the engineering team, the product group is considering. So that's all I can share right now. So I mean that you will see more features added to this plan down the road.
Okay, thank you. And the next question, what are the recommendations for a customer who has the ASB applied and now wants to move to Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark? Is there some migration path, or will ASB assigned via AZ policy be automatically updated?
I can take that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Azure Security Benchmark is going to still be that initiative that you enable at your subscription level in Azure for Azure resources. And so the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, what it's going to do is that it is going to stay in the regulatory compliance tab. And then from there, you can just go there, look at your AWS, GCP, and Azure resources. So there's no migration. So Azure Security Benchmark is still the one that gives us the Azure security recommendations.
Thank you, Fernanda. So we are out of time today. So thank you to Stanislav and Fernanda for being our guests and for an excellent presentation. And thank you to the rest of the team who helped answer all of the questions. Once again, I would like to remind the listeners that the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements is to visit our landing page at aka.ms/securitycommunity. And while there, you'll find easy ways to navigate and find the resources and learning content relevant to our security products and their communities. A good start would be browsing our bite-sized product videos, ninja trainings, recordings of past webinars, GitHub communities, and more. We'd love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. Please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. Thank you and see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.